We are back to talk about the best things that happened in UK MMA in 2024. It is time for our annual awards show here on Violent Money. We have got a bunch of categories to get through, a bunch of incredible achievements to celebrate, and I think that we will kick it off by talking about the Gym of the Year for 2024. There were a whole list of nominees. I'm sure, Corley, it was very fun putting this list together without missing one out. It just inevitably happens when we do these award lists that some things slip through the cracks, even when we, sit and revise over them for a long old time. But pretty comprehensive list in the end for people to pick from. So I won't list through all the nominees. You can probably think of the nominees off the top of your head. Maybe a few in there that might slip through the cracks like they probably did for us initially. But Corley, I will throw the hand you the mic here to announce the first winner of the Violent Money Awards for 2024.
Well, our Gym of the Year by quite a substantial vote as well. I would add quite a substantial amount of the vote. Over 52% of it goes to, drum roll please, Renegade Jiu-Jitsu. Well, Team Renegade all over at Birmingham. Gym of the Year for the second year in a row. So big up Renegade, which they have had a great year. I know Leon lost the title, so people might be thinking, oh, but if you look at what they've done on the regional scene with the guys they've got coming up, even the guys fighting elsewhere and stuff, like they've been killing it. So it's no doubt there. Big shout outs though to obviously GB Top Team. They were very close coming into it. Also Next Gen and Shore MMA had a lot of the vote as well. So yeah, it's quite an even spread on it, but Renegade took it quite convincingly. Yeah, go Renegade.
Yeah, I suppose it does feel like a little bit more of a quieter year for Renegade than the previous year where they won it, because you haven't had, the fact of the matter is they don't have a UFC champion anymore, which is not a slight on Renegade. That's a pretty rare thing to have in a UK gym. So it was an incredible achievement. But like Corley said, when you look at the talent that is on those mats every single day, it is still absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there were some other really good gyms that could have got it, but I still feel like Renegade is probably the hotbed at the moment. And when you see people either come to train in the UK or maybe they just want to train with some different people, Renegade seems to still be the place that they go to because that mat is so high level.
Yeah, you've still got a lot of people coming
let's
from
move
all
on. I'm
over
gonna
the UK to head there.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like that hasn't really been a thing before.
That says a lot, I feel like. And then obviously there's like the couple places Corley mentioned to get in that as well. But yeah, people make specific trips still to go to Renegade, so I think that says a lot.
Absolutely. I'm going to switch up the order a little bit here. I said that we were going to go top and bottom, but looking at the list of winners, I think it makes sense to pick a few of the other categories off before we get to some of the really big ones. Not to say that this isn't a big one, because it certainly is. We're going to talk about Submission of the Year. There were, of course, some great ones nominated here. Variety of promotions as well, which is great to see. I believe there was 4 nominees from 4 different promotions. So that's always super. Sorry, 5 nominees. So there was one promotion that had 2 in there, but that's cool to see for a start. And I think that there have been years where there are some good ones. I think there is a couple on this list that probably would have won it the previous years that we've done these awards. It just so happens they happened in the same year. So Corley, I don't know if you want to list these off if you've got them to hand. If not, I can do it. But
yeah, no man. So we had obviously Paddy the Baddy's big submission over Bobby Green. We had that one in there. We had Mitch Good. Don't blame it on the buggy choke. Sorry. Shout out to Brad Wharton with that excellent bit of commentary there. We got that in there. Where else am I looking? We got Shamrock's rear naked over Piconi and Octagon. Just brutal, wasn't it? Brutal. Stevie Ray Twister over Lewis Long, another spicy one in there. And I think the most recent one of the bunch, which just made it, was Don Woodin's win over Leshy on golden ticket with that Peruvian necktie, man. That was a lovely submission there. And again, it's quite a surprising vote, to be fair. Surprised me, but the fans speak, we listen.
Yeah. I feel like whilst it did surprise me actually, because I think that there are a few submissions hitting here that, you know, were a little bit more unexpected and things like that. But also, I think that this one is maybe something that, you know, in hindsight, you go, oh, yeah, that's not that surprising. But at the time, I was pretty surprised by this, not necessarily that this person won via this method, but the manner of the victory. Of course, talking about Paddy Pimblett's submission over King Green at UFC 304, which did end up winning the vote. You know, everyone was saying that King Green might be the moment where Paddy starts to really struggle in this lightweight division. And we've seen, you know, him get some impressive submissions in the UFC, but I don't think we've really seen that same level. Like, he's shown his finishing instinct, but this was really a glimpse of the old Paddy Pimblett in Cage Warriors, snatching submissions out of nowhere and just wrapping the fight up before you even know that it started. But this was a beautiful finish from Paddy that I think probably changed some opinions of Paddy in terms of his capabilities. So a massive win for his career. I'm sure you agree, Steve.
Well, yeah, this is definitely the best he's looked in the UFC. It was a highest level opponent, and he put in the best performance to get him out of there in the first round. And the way he did it, you know, Bobby Green's a tough guy. Bobby Green doesn't get finished easily, and to put him out cold that was a wild moment. I remember, just obviously we all watched that card live, and yeah, that was a pretty crazy moment. So yeah, and of course the notoriety factor as well. More people would have seen that than the other options in the poll. I think that's important to note as well. But yeah, not taking anything away from it. It was an excellent submission and definitely a deserved winner.
Yeah. When I said about there are a couple of submissions in here that I think probably could have won it in previous years, the fact that Stevie Ray has pulled off another twister and that isn't the winner is proof of how good this category is. And also two other things that I think are worth mentioning in this category. If we did a commentary line of the year, Blame It on the Buggy is a really strong favorite. And I think in terms of a iconic post-fight interview line, Shamrock's "You Have the Right to Remain Silent" also elevates that submission massively. So those some incredible moments that just so happen to be related to submissions this year.
The variety as well, right? We've got a Peruvian necktie, we've got a twister, we've got a buggy. That's not going to be the case every year.
No, absolutely not.
Be 5 rear naked chokes next year. So touch wood, touch some wood.
Armbar.
I am going to send it back to Corley on this one as we talk about the UK regional promotion of the year. Again, a whole ton of nominees here. So this one is always difficult to put together because there is just so many. And
Corley's favorite award.
Corley is the best placed of any of us to do this because you are somehow able to keep track of what all of these promotions are up to. For me and Steve, it is a wilderness that we are trying to navigate without a map. But Corley, I will let you take over your favorite category on the list.
Well, just so you both know, I have navigated without a map somehow, so it can be done. Lots and lots of hours. But this was so fun to watch on the Google Forms, guys. This was so fun because it was one promotion leading from day one, convincing I was like, nah, it's done for. Like, there is no way they are getting beat. And then out of nowhere, the spread has just gone insane. Every single promotion that we listed had at least 10 votes, which I thought was nice to see. But it was a 2-horse race. I'm just trying to think how I'm going to sell this now. It was a 2-horse race in the end between a 3-horse race, actually, between FCC up north, the mighty full contact contender. Last year's winner, Cage Warriors Academy Southeast, which again, another amazing year. And then Rise and Conquer came out of nowhere, the Sunderland promotion, which have had quite a good year with the 2 events they've put on. Some good stuff coming out of there. But in the end, Cage Warriors Academy has come through and snatched it for a second year on the run. And again, it's a testament to the matchmaking, the quality of the show, the production. It's just quality in it. I do love a good old Cage Warriors Southeast card. But again, shout out to FCC. They're always up there every single year. I think they've come second by like a few votes. Like it's rough, man. But they always put a good show on for us up north with some standout stars. Rise and Conquer again. They've been doing bits for years, but it's good to see them finally get like the more recognition that they deserve. And yeah, let's see what's coming next year. There's already been some tasty fights announced on by some of the promotions, so it's going to be another big year for MMA on the UK scene, babies.
The fact that you said about every promotion getting at least 10 votes is proof of why this category is always so hard to do. Because it's like, we could separate these into 3 different blocks and it would still be competitive for who takes if you separate into like group stages, it would be super close of who gets through to the next round. Maybe that's what we'll have to start doing. We're gonna have to start doing a knockout tournament or something just for these promotions.
I think we might have to actually do that because honestly, counting it's horrendous. It is horrendous. But no, such a good vote spread on that one. There's some others as well which really were good, which we'll obviously get into. But no, it was fun to watch and see how that was contested, man. Really good. But shouts to them all again, man. Shouts to them all. Such a good year for UK MMA. Such a good year. And no doubt we'll get another bigger and better one this year.
Yeah, I should say a massive credit to you for counting up all of the social media votes, especially for these categories where there are so many nominees that, it isn't just 1 or 2 names that you're looking out for. You are counting every single vote across like, I don't even know how many promotions we ended up putting forward, but there's probably like 10 at least.
I think it's like 13 or 12. And then double checking to make sure the same person hasn't voted twice. It's a proper, but who cares? It's the work we put in. So shout out to Cage Warriors Academy. Shout out to CWA.
Let's go to, I suppose, one of the bigger categories of the year. We will talk about breakout fighter, and this one is always a little bit contentious when it comes to what names do we put forward. There is an example of someone who was nominated for Fighter of the Year this year, who was previously a breakout fighter. And whilst you could argue that they had another breakout year on top of previous year, it's hard to kind of gauge that. But I think that ultimately we have picked 4 names here who really stepped up this year and definitely, I think, increased their stock and profile significantly from the previous year. Those nominees were the Cage Warriors featherweight champion Harry Hardwick. We had Cage Warriors again with Luke Riley. Lewis McGrillen, of course, became a PFL champion on the European brand this previous year. What a remarkable year he had. And finally, the winner of that category was Big Mick Parkin, friend of the channel. It's been great to see his success in the UFC after kind of coming out of nowhere to get that opportunity on Contender Series, and he has just hit the ground running. And I think that we were obviously all super happy to see how well he was doing in the UFC, and then suddenly you get to a point where he gets 2 wins in 2024, including his first finish, his first performance bonus, and then cut to UFC London coming up in March, and he is facing a ranked opponent. So what a year it's been for Mick Parkin.
Yeah, the Mick Parkin rise is one of my favorite things in MMA at the minute. It's so good. It's like he's so unassuming as well. He's like just a good dude, happy to be there, and like not in a bad way. But yeah, very excited for what could be in 2025 for him as well. Obviously, Nassim Tybura is a huge fight in the division. Really, he's a gatekeeper essentially. Let's put it how it is. So, I mean, if Mick can get past that one, he's set. He's gonna be looking towards the top of that division.
Yeah.
If he wins that fight sooner than probably any of us expected, which could be a problem given who the champion is likely to be. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one to see how it plays out.
No, I really think Mick can be at the top end of that division. I really do. But like you say, Steve, we're gonna have some complications if Tom's the champ as well. But like we say, what a rise, man! From Cage Steel to UFC, from Dominic Gibbs to Dana White. I mean, it's a big jump. It's crazy out here, man. Do you know what I mean? It's wild. But shouts to Mick Parkin, man. What a year!
And like I I'm not going to do this for every category because of course we are picking pretty much 4 nominees for throughout an entire year, so there is tons to get to. But you look at the other names that we nominated, all of them had incredible years. So the pick there was a difficult one, but very happy to see it go towards Mick Parkin. I am gonna send it back to Corley for another regional category here.
Oh baby.
Let's do female amateur of the year, if you would please.
This one was my favorite from day one. This was literally from the 4 girls. This was 25% each at one point, and not even on the first day. Like, I'm talking second to last day of the vote closing. This was so even. I can't even tell you. And then when I was counting up the votes, and as the vote was carrying on, it didn't lean any more to anyone. It just balanced the voting out. So this one was absolutely mint to watch, and every single lady on there should be buzzing with themselves. But the ultimate winner by, I think it was 17 votes I've got down here. I'm sorry, I can't even read my own handwriting today, so I do apologize. But it is the almighty from Team Fish Tank. It's Katrina Fisher, who had a stellar year herself, but man, it was so fun to watch this vote, man. And I think it's worth shouting out Chloe Gowan, Alana Pritchard, and Ella Beale, because they had a cracking year too. But Katrina Fisher, man, whew, smashed it. So yeah, shout out to her.
I guess I'll just let you lead straight into to male amateur of the year. We'll hit those categories back to back.
This one was also just as contested, but again, as the vote went on, it went one-sided to one of the guys, and that is the man on the regional scene at the moment, Jordan Rutherford. The man is just taking belts left, right, and centre. I think he's got 4 titles at the moment. Don't quote me on that because I'm still trying to keep up in my head. He's so active. He's so fast. He's just quality. Absolutely cracking year. If anyone deserved to win it, I think it was Jordan Rutherford. Just looking at the list now, though, as well, Mason Kinsella from Cage Warriors Academy. He had a cracking year. He got a lot of the vote. Kane Darcy got a big bit of the vote. Stephen Clancy Simmons and Charlie Lynch Spence, who got robbed at the IMAFs. They were very close into it. Everyone got quite a good vote in this. So again, and this was hard enough to narrow it down to, I think I've got 6 guys. It could have been 10. It could have been 12. If I wanted it my way, it would have been 20. But yeah, big Jordan Rutherford coming away with the win there. So yeah, boy.
Let's talk about another big one, the knockout of the year category. This one, I think there are quite a lot of parallels to the submission of the year one, as we'll get into. I mean, I won't give it away just yet. But we had some great ones here. Steve, I don't know if you want to run through the knockout of the year nominees.
Yeah, so a friend of the channel, voted on several times, Chanel Dyer, huge head kick this year. Tom Aspinall in the biggest spot, trying to exercise those demons against Curtis Blades from all those years ago, and he did it very quickly. Jimmy Quinn in Cage Warriors, was that the knee?
Yeah,
Flying knee. Lewis McGrillen versus Dean Garnett, which is another one we're going to come on to a bit later. Shock. And the main man, Oban Elliott, against Basil Havers just a few weeks ago in Madison Square Garden, as we see Corley pulling out the Hulkster pose, which may not be the best.
No, I shouldn't be doing that. Shouldn't be doing that. I'm sorry. It's always me. It's always me. I should know better after he got booed. Sorry, Steve.
No, which one of you wants to announce the winner?
I don't think I deserve to after doing that, so one of you can take it away.
Okay,
You carry on.
and we teased it with the parallels to the submission of the year, but the winner is Tom Aspinall against Curtis Blades.
Very convincingly, I
UFC
might add as well.
304, Co-op Live, Manchester, co-main event.
And he got 50% of the vote. Stone dead, 50%. It was very one-sided, this one. Shout out again, though. Our boy, Oban Elliott, come away with 24.7% of the vote. But I am bitterly disappointed in the MMA community for not voting for Chanel Dye's head kick. I might be biased because that's what I voted for, but I was very, very unhappy with the voting section of that. So you should all hang your heads in some sort of shame. But also, it might be worth noting that PFL is quite hard to watch. So
Chanel was my pick as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I voted Chanel as well. So it might have just been all of us voting for Chanel.
How could it not have been? I won't get into that. I won't take away from Tom Aspinall's brutal knockout. And I suppose you could include the caliber of opponent as well. Obviously,
Yeah.
Curtis Blades is up there. So I'm not being whiny. I'm just upset. I'm just upset.
Yeah, I think if you not only the stakes involved in that, bringing the UFC to Manchester, avenging that loss to Curtis Blades, but also the fact of the matter is we're all huge Tom Aspinall fans, and we sat on this podcast going, I think he does it, but Curtis Blades is a tough matchup. You know, it's a tough fight for him, and he made the fight look exactly like all of his other fights, where he was way too fast, way too powerful. So I think the result itself is maybe more impressive than the actual method of victory. Obviously, to knock him out early on is very impressive, but there were flashier knockouts, but this one probably meant the most.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that.
Let's change it up here and go to European promotion of the year. I actually can't remember who won this one last year, so I don't know whether this is back to back, but I have a
it is.
Okay, so I'm thinking of a previous year when a different promotion won, I think. But either way, Corley, I'll let you do this one because again, one of your favorite categories, I do believe.
Oh, this is my favorite. This is my favorite because it has my favorite. And whilst they are my favorite, and it's no secret that they aren't my favorite, I am very unbiased in these, and I would just like you all to know that because my favorite one, and it was Cage Warriors, baby, the almighty Cage Warriors. Now, I feel like this pick might get some flack because I know a lot of people are going to be saying Octagon, 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 but Cage Warriors reign supreme, baby. What can we say? You can say KSW, you can say LFL. Everyone's had a great year, to be honest. I think European-wise, we've been spoilt for choice on the European scene. I think that we've had a lot of cards better than most UFC events. Don't know if that's just my personal take, but we've had a lot of good cards this year. And Cage Warriors again, 63.5% of the vote, very convincing there. But yeah. Big up Cage Warriors, man. Big up Cage Warriors. It's also worth noting that Octagon have had an amazing year. That Frankfurt show was the shows they've been doing at the Eden Stadium. Sorry, they've really leveled up from in a venue point of view and production. So shout out to them. I'm surprised they didn't get more votes. To be fair, they got a lot of comments, but on the actual form, it's worth noting as well. Comments weren't an available option on Twitter, and I think all the other promotions, bar Octagon, retweeted the post on Twitter. So might be a bit of bearing on it. But no, reigning supreme with another lovely year is our Cage Warriors. So yeah, back to back. And hopefully, maybe we'll even see 3 in a year. I might have to go down to the headquarters and give them a trophy if that happens. But who knows? Who knows? I'll go with a trophy and end up with a restraining order.
I just want to comment on Octagon real quick. Obviously, the stuff they've done in Europe is great, but such a high percentage of our voter base is going to be UK based, and obviously Octagon in the UK hasn't necessarily been a banner year this year. We've seen with it
That's
happened
so
a lot of
true.
fighters getting let out of their contracts. The whole UK expansion for them hasn't quite gone as planned. I think that's very fair to say.
Yeah, no, I
So
think
yeah,
it's dead in the
I can
water,
see.
to be said.
Yeah, that's fair to say. So yeah, I completely see why Cage Warriors has got the vote, despite Octagon having sort of what are we looking at 50,000 people at one of the shows, which is kind of crazy numbers. And I mean, I was talking last time I spoke to Amari, I was like, I want to get to one of those, but
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, they obviously had a great year in Europe, but when like I say, a lot of the vote is going to be UK based. It's never a surprise to see Cage Warriors, and that's not to say they don't deserve it. They've had a great year as always.
Cracking year this year for Cage Warriors. I think one of the best, to be honest, but I'm
Yeah,
biased. I'm very biased.
Yeah, I think it is worth pointing out that like the difference between watching like even just in terms of removing the success of the Octagon expansion into the UK, just as a viewer or a fan experience, the difference between watching one of their European shows versus watching the UK shows, it is a big difference. And that's
Oh,
understandable because it's only a recent thing, but at the same time, Cage Warriors incredibly reliable. You know what you're getting every single time, and I think that's why they always do so well in these votes because like I don't I'm not saying this to suggest that people haven't watched it, but you can almost vote for Cage Warriors without watching any Cage Warriors cards because you know it's going to be as good as the year before, if not better. Like it
yeah.
just continuously keeps being this good. Um,
yeah. So it reminds me of something that I randomly bumped into Dan Strauss at one of the Cage Warrior shows, sort of like 2-3 years ago, and I was like, "Hope you enjoyed the card," and he was like, "Of course, you never get a bad Cage Warriors card." That's what Dan Strauss said to me. So it's like, and it's so true, right? And the other
It's
thing I always like.
so true.
The other thing I always like to bring up on Cage Warriors, the production is like so on point for them. It's like it makes it easy to watch as a fan. The pacing is perfect. I know we're getting into like little details here, but the pacing is perfect. The production is like next level good. So yeah, things like that make it very easy to watch, as well as obviously ease of access being on Fight Pass.
Literally as well. But yeah, big up Cage Warriors each and every time. It's good they've won it again though. Sorry, after last year, I'm sure we were saying about like there was the George Hardwick going on to the Contender Series. There was a lot of we don't ifs and buts on what stars are moving on and stuff, and they've still just kept it going 100%. Replaced those stars, got other people up to that level. They're just on it, aren't they? They're just on it, man. Just on it.
it's been a really big year of change for Cage Warriors. So the fact that the
Yeah,
fact that we're talking about how consistent it's been is such a huge credit to them. They've lost so many fighters this year, and big names too. Obviously, Oban debuted in the UFC in 2024. Paul Hughes left the promotion. Like Jordan Vucenic's
Jordan.
gone.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
Fletcher.
and yet, when you look at the fights that we potentially have coming up, obviously we've had a few fights confirmed from Cage Warriors already. You look at the strength of schedule already, and some of the names that we're likely to see. It just keeps on going as always at such a high
Yeah,
level.
it's quite remarkable how they lose so many fighters, and there's always a next guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they've just got
Like
it
look at
tapped.
Harry Hardwick. Like here, Harry Hardwick, Luke Riley. Like these are the guys of the minute, and then soon they're not going to be the guys because they're going to go elsewhere. But there's going to be someone else.
Teddy Stringer's going to be the next one. Honestly, Teddy
Yeah,
Stringer is going to be the next star to come out of there. But I'm saying that, and there's about 20 others. There's about 20 others you could say the same thing for.
yeah. When
Great
we talk
development.
about that next generation, who I mean, there is a couple people here who have experience in Cage Warriors, but maybe we'll see some of the others in Cage Warriors as well at some point to talk about Rookie of the Year. The
Oh,
faces coming through that we're expecting to kind of break through into those categories where we're talking about them being breakthrough fighter of the year and things like that. Corley, I'll let you take the lead on this one because I know that as much as I joke around about some of your categories being your favorite categories because I know that they're a bit more stressful than others, I know that this is particularly an area of the sport that you are very passionate about, seeing people come through the early pro stages and go on to bigger and better things.
there is nothing I love more. That is my part of the sport. I love watching people get on that little fringe of going up into like the Cage Warriors, the other promotions. But this one, was intense. I actually felt very passionate about this vote because we get on with everyone. All 4 of the guys we voted for, we've spoken to in the past, we've done articles on, we've interviewed. It felt very personal. And seeing one guy get more votes than another was very like, oh no, but I think the ultimate winner was very deserving. And yeah, don't know how to really jump into this, but I'm just going to. It was the flycatcher, Connor Walsh, ended up snatching the victory. But again, this one was so good to watch. Again, Shea Ingram got a lot of the vote early on and on the comments, as did Mo Zubair again, mint first year as professional. Levi Batchelor, young money from Shaw MMA over there under their tutelage. He's had such a standout year. Levi Batchelor is 100% one we should all be watching. Should have been watching, will watch, and I've said that in the wrong order, but yeah, just watch him basically. But Connor Walsh, man, can't take away his year. He's got a little Venom sponsorship as well, so I'm hoping that translates into a little cheeky step up, a little word to Dana, like give this little Scouse lad a call, go on. But nah, he's so talented. Him and Curtis Campbell, as like a pair of stars to watch, are the ones to watch in the North at the moment. So talented, so well-rounded. Get him on Cage Warriors, give him a big step up, get him in the UFC rapid. That is my message to anyone that will listen. But again, Shea had a good debut there this year against Ngannou. He had a cracking year on Cage Warriors Lowlands over there in the Netherlands. Mo again, he had a cracking knockout early on this year. Like, it was absolutely brutal, just that hook that sent that lad under. And again, Levi Batchelor, he's probably my pick for next year and like a breakout star. Honestly, he's my early prediction for a next year breakout star. I think he's going to have a massive year. I would say PFL Europe might even pick him up if Cage Warriors don't, but I don't know what's happening with anything like that anymore. But I'll save that for another day.
Let's talk about fight of the year, and potentially we'll be talking a little bit more about PFL Europe, because
Literally.
we nominated quite a few here this time around, but I'm just checking the results to make sure I'm right on this one. That there wasn't some crazy result, but I'm pretty sure there wasn't.
It nearly was.
It nearly was. It nearly was. There was. Look, we put some great fights forward. If there's any fights that we mention as one of the nominees that you haven't seen, go back and watch it. It'll be well worth your time. But that there was one winner that we had our eyes on, and it did eventually prevail. We had some great fights in this category, the likes of Lerone Murphy versus Dan Ige. That was a really entertaining back and forth contest. A great win for Lerone as well. Of course, Lerone's teammate, Lewis McGrillen versus Dean Garnett in the PFL Europe. We had Damon Donald versus Callum Parker, Mason Jones versus Pagani, Aaron Abbey versus Sam Creasy in Octagon, and Josh O'Connor versus a name that I'm going to butcher. I'm going to say Kawa or Kawa. Either way, a great fight. And I think that's one that probably has gone under the radar. So people should go back for that one for sure. But the eventual winner, I mean, I know that the vote was close, but in our minds, it was never really close. Lewis McGrillen versus Dean Garnett is one of the craziest fights I have ever seen. It is absolutely ridiculous. I don't remember the tally of knockdowns, but it's in double digits. It's insane from start to finish. You can go on the PFL's YouTube channel and watch the whole fight, or you can watch the highlights, which is basically the whole fight. And not only is it one of the craziest fights you'll ever see, it ends in a knockout that was on our knockout of the year list, just to cap it off. This fight is, I feel like I'm going to be talking about how ridiculous this fight is for years to come, because somehow there are people who are MMA fans who still haven't seen it, and that's crazy.
The thing I love most about this fight as well is I feel like this now can be the UK's like Melendez versus Sanchez type of thing. Do you know what I mean? We finally got like a UK fight. Can be like, oh, we don't have to watch a UFC fight to get you into it. Watch this scrap here. Do you know what I mean? PFL Europe have actually made us say, "Oh, look at this scrap that's not on the UFC." So thank you for that. But what a fight! What a fight! Even my kids were like, "Oh God, what's going on?" They're always like, "Yeah, I'm not tuning in and out." Do you know what I mean? They were on it. So yeah, shout out to both of them. But again, there was some other bangers on there, like Damon Donald versus Callum Parker. That was a great scrap. That was a great scrap. Josh O'Connor versus the name I will not pronounce. That was a scrap. Like you said, Kyle, that's probably gone under the radar the most. But I say that actually, and I think that comes third of the vote. So people obviously onto it. Jones versus Pagani, I thought that would have finished higher, to be honest. That was a great fight. That was a great fight on Cage Warriors. And then just to end off, Aaron Abbey versus Sam Creasy, that was a great war on Octagon. It's probably one of the best fights we saw off the UK versus UK of Octagon so far. So I'm eager to see what both of them have coming up this year. I know they've both teased fight news. I think Creasy's defended against that. Is it Adamir? I think his name is. I'm not too sure. I don't know what Aby's teased some news. So hopefully we'll see them back up here with more fights of the year this year.
Yeah. Before I move on, is there anything you want to say, Steve, about Lewis McGrillen and Dean Garnett?
I don't think there's anything really to add on to what you guys said. You guys covered it. Probably the greatest UK versus UK fight in MMA history. I mean, that's fair to say, right? I haven't seen the entire history of Bama. I'm sure there's some bangers, but Hawley's the best. Hawley's best place to answer that, I imagine. But for my money, it's one of the better fights of all time. It's like that level. We talked about the number of knockdowns. You compared it to Melendez and Sanchez.
Might have been a bit much that one, but you know what I was trying to say. You know what I was trying to say.
I mean, yeah, I find it hard pressed to think of a better European fight that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is that good. Especially considering the fact that Lewis McGrillen stepped in on, I don't remember exactly what the notice was, but I think it was like 2 weeks after Dean Garnett went through multiple opponents before that. So, and that doesn't even get brought up because of how good the fight is. You know, that's like a side note.
Look at the year that McGrillen went on to have as well. He obviously won the tournament, and he was nominated for our breakout fighter of the year as well. So, yeah, it really having that fight kind of spurred on the year that he had, and who knows what he's going to do in the PFL now? Who knows what anyone's going to do in the PFL now? But that's another podcast.
Yeah. But just a quick tidbit to add to it. I hope we see him. Just give him the step up, get him in the world tournament. I know it's only 8 people. I know it's bantamweight. We probably want to see Patchy Mix and all them guys in there if they're even still signed with them at that time. But just put him in there. Just do it.
I think you have to. He's such a great tournament fighter as well to have. Just adds so much excitement to the tournament because just like he did this past year, he can jump into the semi-finals and get 2 quick knockouts. Well, I say 2 quick knockouts. They weren't exactly quick. He had to go through some fire to get them. But back-to-back knockouts and as he said, he robbed the bank. So shout out to Lewis McGrillen. What a year he's had.
He also should win the Ginger of the Year award, I think, in MMA. Because I don't think another Ginger has had a better year than him. So the official Ginger of the Year award can go to Lewis McGrillen. Shout out to you, brother.
Sam Alvey's the heavyweight champion in Karate Combat. What are you talking about?
But still, it's the UK award, Steve. Might have an argument for international, but for the UK boy, then it's Lewis. Tim Wilde came close, but Lewis stole it. I'm sorry.
It's a 2-horse race between Tim Wilde and Lewis McGrillen every year.
Shout out my boy Tim.
We've only got a couple of categories left. There is one that I'm gonna end it on rather than one that we did votes for, one that we decided to actually just give out. But let's talk about what I believe are the last 2 voted for categories, which are, of course, male and female fighter of the year. I think we'll do male fighter of the year first because I think that, well, we'll get to why we're doing female fighter second because there's a lot more to get into with that one than there is male fighter of the year. Because this has been the case for the past few years, and that is only a testament to the incredible few years that UK MMA has had, where when there is a champion from the UK, that person tends to win Fighter of the Year. It's kind of just that simple, and that is not to downplay the incredible achievements of Brendan Loughnane, who made it to another PFL final after, didn't really know where his career was going to go after being eliminated from the season in 2023, comes back, manages to go all the way, and seemingly fought through a pretty bad injury to take on Timur Kizriev and put up a much better effort than a lot of people did against that guy, who is a scary individual indeed. Oban Elliott, what else needs to be said? The Violent Money TV mascot, he's been killing it this year. Statement performances across the board. Ends it with a knockout in Madison Square Garden. We could wax lyrical about the year that the Welsh Gangster has had constantly.
That's another episode.
Exactly. The consistent force in the Male Fighter of the Year award. Phil de Vries, the KSW heavyweight champion, the most dominant champion in MMA. Just doing what he does. I feel like, again, like Cage Warriors, you almost don't need to watch Phil for us to nominate him for this award at this point. You can go, is Phil de Vries on the list? He's probably had 2, maybe 3 title defenses this year. Yeah, it will go on there. It's what he does. And I say this every single year because it's apart from, every now and then where he might have a fight coming up and we talk about it. This is like the time where we get to spotlight how, as much as, I'm giving it a big kind of pomp and circumstance, it deserves that, because what he has done in KSW is insane. Like that, it just doesn't happen, especially in heavyweight MMA. It is remarkable. But the winner, his training partner, a fellow heavyweight, Tommy Aspinall, potentially talking about, this has been a year which, Tom Aspinall has been deserving of a lot of praise for several years now. This is a year where we're saying that the consensus greatest of all time is afraid to fight him. That is how high Tom Aspinall is in people's aspirations and expectations for what he can go on to accomplish. This, for a lot of people, I know that there are some people out there who are big fans of John Jones who maybe don't agree, but I think a lot of MMA fans think that this is just the start for Tom Aspinall. And I know that he doesn't want to stick around for years and years, but it still does feel like his best years are ahead of him. Bringing the UFC back to Manchester, we've already spoken about the Curtis Blades knockout. And aside from his accomplishments in the cage, I think just a fantastic representative of the UK at the top of the sporting world. We've said the same in previous years about Leon Edwards. So happy that if there's anyone that is going to represent UK MMA as the leading figure right now, I love that it's Tom Aspinall, because he seems like a fantastic human being, as well as being the baddest man on the planet. Before we move on to the female fighter of the year, which is going to be a little bit more of a conversation, do any of you want to say anything about Tom Aspinall?
Yeah, what a year, man. What a year. I also especially love the skits he's been doing. Sorry, I didn't know if Steve was going to step in when you stopped, so I was waiting. I was looking at Steve thinking,
I thought Paulie was going to go.
Yeah, that was just
you were going to go.
And I saw Kyle shaking there, like, oh, should I go? But no, what a year Tom's had. The skits he's done, like with Jones, like John, walking around. I think he's really took his presence to like the mainstream, if that makes any sense. Sorry if I've said that the right way. He's really got out to like masses of fans. Like even some of my mates don't watch MMA. They'll just be like, "Oh, I've seen Conor McGregor's fighting," or "Oh, such and such is fighting." It's never really anything. But like Tom Aspinall's bang on their radar, and I'm like, "Oh, he's fighting!" Like it was all over it for the Manchester card we've spoken about. So yeah, I just think no one more deserving really this year than Tom. Arguments could be made for Oban though, and I might again be biased for that. But Harry Hardwick did say on one of the posts that Oban should have won the MMA Fighter of the Year and the Breakout Fighter of the Year, even though he wasn't nominated. So unofficially, Oban is a double winner. We have to just kind of, unofficially. I'm sure someone will edit his Wikipedia page to say he's won an unofficial award, but Who knows? But yeah, big up Tommy A, man. Big up Tommy A. I'm gutted for Phil the Freeze, man. He comes second. He comes second this year. He'll win again. He'll win again.
It's fine. He'll have another couple title defenses next year, and he'll be up there again. It's fine.
He'll be
But
there.
on Tom Aspinall, the promo too. Hello, John.
So good.
Yeah, perfect.
Mint.
That sounds like who he is, right? As well, that's like perfect for him too. Yeah, and I mean, if that fight happens, it's gonna be a huge fight. It's gonna be the biggest fight of the year.
Biggest
in
fight
the-
ever, I think. That Jones versus Aspinall, maybe not biggest fight ever in heavyweight history. Definitely, that is a huge fight. That is. Whew.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I don't think
yeah.
we'll actually. Yeah,
What were we gonna say?
I was just gonna say I don't think we'll put a ceiling. I don't think we'll say how good Tom Aspinall really is until he's out of the sport. I think we'll also be like, oh yeah, Tommy A. But then when he's out of it, we'll be like, oh my god, look at that force to be reckoned with. Big up Tommy A.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to mention about Tom Aspinall, who I feel like has just had, in terms of his public perception, I think it's just had a remarkable year. Part of that is due to John Jones constantly slagging him off, which I think makes people root for him even more. But maybe the best example in recent times of UK humor not translating, him saying that he dips his hands in oil and then having to apologize because people thought he was being serious. Remarkable stuff from him filming himself and FaceTiming Ariel whilst Ariel's asleep and him dipping his hand. Just incredible. Just seeing through the bit until it was unavoidable, until he had to come clean.
I mean, like you mentioned that, but the guys hit the States too. Look at the reaction he got at New York at the press conference when they mentioned his name.
That's true.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. That's so true.
Yeah.
Like when Dana said that fight is happening at the John Jones press conference, you've never heard a pop like it.
Yeah.
It's good to see an English star translate well in America as well. So I don't think it's kind of happened really since like you can maybe see like Bisping. Do you know what I mean? I don't think Leon really caught on much in America and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Bisping was for most of Bisping's run, he was the foreign heel though.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, very true. Let's talk about female fighter of the year. I was gonna pass this one to Steve, but Corley, I don't know whether you want to handle it because you actually have the voting numbers. You can explain what has happened.
Pass it to me. Don't pass it to me.
I don't have the numbers, so I can't do it.
Them if you want.
I'll preface this before I just throw it all to Corley. There was of course, all 4 nominees incredibly deserving of being nominated here. There was a previous winner, a 2-time winner.
She's won every single year she's won. There's not been a year she hasn't won.
And we're talking about a person that has gone from winning the award last year by winning the PFL Europe, which was impressive. And we were all talking about the star she could go on to become.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2024, that happened in the space of a year, beating one of the best fighters in her weight class, not just beating, but completely steamrolling the opponent that everyone thought would be her toughest test to date and really see what she's made of. A star-making year for Dakota Ditcheva that, considering the fact that she has won it back-to-back years already and is in, if you look at MMA award shows, not just UK MMA, but across the board, female fighter of the year, Dakota Ditcheva is something you are going to see a lot. I know for other outlets that I work for, Dakota Ditcheva was voted the female fighter of the year across the board in MMA, not just UK MMA. However, I'm going to preface this by saying that, as we have mentioned multiple times already on various other awards, unlike when we put these lists together and we are going through Tapology and watching clips back and things like that, when you are tasked with voting on a long form and you are not going to do that research when picking them. And as much as Dakota Ditcheva has made a huge impact this year, it has been, first of all, in the PFL, which just completely, truthfully, not every MMA fan is either a fan of or watches regularly. So whilst they might have heard of her accomplishments, they might not have seen them. there is also the fact that it's been overseas. This is, as Steve said earlier, in relation to Octagon, the majority of our voting base is going to be from the UK. And whilst Dakota has been celebrated over here, and I think is really starting to make some waves in relation to public appearances, being on Sky Sports, things like that, all great steps in the right way. She said it herself. She wants to bring the PFL back to Manchester. She wants this homecoming show for all of the fans here, and so that she can really build a following here. Because it felt like we had her for such a short time, and then it was off to the US, and that is where she will seemingly be the majority of the time. I preface all of that because the winner of the award is not Dakota Ditchfer, but now that we have said this piece on Dakota Ditchfer and the incredible accomplishments, we should speak about the incredible accomplishments of the winner, who in previous years would have probably won the award and there would have been no conversation. It is just that Dakota has had such a standout year that I think it's worth highlighting that, even if she didn't go on to win the award like we expected she would.
Yeah, we had to highlight a year, definitely, because she has. It's hard for us because when we start this off, obviously we put the list together, we do them as fair as we can, but then we all have a like, oh yeah, from thingy, we reckon that one, they're going to win because of like this and that and this and that. But that's not to downplay anyone that's been nominated. They've all had standout years. That's why they're on the list. That's why everyone's had a big share of the vote as well. It's not just a landslide. But yeah, who wants to declare the winner?
I mean, I'll carry on if you want, but I don't know I know that it was competitive.
Well, I will hit you.
Yeah, you can give the numbers, Corley.
I'll hit you in with it. So, with 6.8% of the vote, we had Chanel Dyer with PFL Europe. I really think as well she would have had a bigger share of the vote if she was in the final, but I think she was out injured, was she? So It is what it is. But her performances in the tournament was so standout. I think she was nominated for Breakout Star, or she was nominated for a big award last year.
Knockout.
I think she was nominated for
Knockout.
Yeah,
was she nominated for Rookie as well?
Yeah,
I think she
so.
won Rookie.
Yeah, you might be right.
I think she won Knockout as well, didn't she, last year?
Was it the spinning elbow or something?
I think so. Yeah,
breakfast?
Chanel always.
We should probably note this down.
We probably should, but
it's hard. 2024 is already in the past. I'm already forgetting stuff from last year, let alone 2023.
And as everyone knows, MMA doesn't take a break. We're not lucky like football people who get a good few months of rest. It's every day. You want me to report on 13 regional promotions? You'll give us a bit of slack. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, Chanel again, a standout year, and like you were saying before, Kyle, I think any other year, Chanel would have been back in conversation for Women of the Year. Do you know what I mean? But in third place, with 27.6% of the vote, was Melissa Mullins. And again, great comeback here for her as well. I thought she had some great performances in the UFC, a promotion I hold very dear to my heart, as I'm sure both of you and any previous viewers of Verbal Money will know. Very big UFC fan. And then in second place, not in second place, I'm going to go straight to first place because we've just been speaking that Dakota's not won it. With 34.4% of the vote is Cage Warriors' latest champion, Kennedy Freeman. The daughter of the Machine, Ian Freeman, has stole the title away from Dakota, which probably comes as a shock as well because she's been so consistently won every year, Dakota, by a landslide. It's kind of like, she's going to win again. But can't downplay what Kennedy's done this year. And to get signed by the UFC as well, that was quite a shock to me. I thought it was coming, especially after the title win, but I thought we'd maybe see her defend it one or two times beforehand. I thought she was going to be on the London card. When the UFC London event was announced in March, I thought she was going to be on the Cage Warriors event that was coming. But hopefully now she's on that London card, I hope, because what a year she's had. What a year she's had.
Yeah, and it's important to mention she only returned to MMA in November 2023. She was gone for like 5 years.
Yeah, it's a big layoff, and she's come back and looked 100 times better. And in every fight she's had with Cage Warriors, she's looked loads better. You can tell she's fine-tuning all of those things back at, I think she's at TFT, she at Team Fish Tank. and Machine MMA, I think. Yeah, I think she's training there. But again, absolutely smashing it. Absolutely smashing it. I think she'll be a big standout star for the UK in the UFC, especially now Molly seems to be going into her later stages of her career. I feel like Kennedy Freeman's going to like jump in and take that gap. So yeah, shout out to Kennedy.
I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go, Steve.
You can go, because I didn't really know what I was going to say. I was just going to ask for some space.
The I think it is important to bring up the gap that she had in her career, because it makes it, obviously she has the connection to, you know, fans of UK MMA because of her family name, and you want her to succeed. But she has been a person that I think really, I mean, it's proof on this vote, really galvanizes fans, and they're really passionate about following her. Not to mention that you just don't really see too many women come along in MMA who have that kind of power in their hands. So it always seemed inevitable that Kennedy would only need to string some wins together. I know that she's been offered big opportunities in the past and turned them down because she wasn't ready. Got that title fight under her belt and was ready to go. And you know, it's going to be hopefully another even bigger year for her in the UFC. And yeah, I can't wait to see her debut. That is going to be an emotional moment watching her walk to the cage alongside Ian Freeman. That's going to be a really, really cool moment for UK MMA. The final award to touch on, as I mentioned several minutes ago, was not one that was voted for by the fans. We have done this in the past, and that is the Outstanding Achievement Award. I'm pretty sure last year we gave it to Shaw MMA as a whole for the year that they produced. They had some big wins, as well as some really exciting emerging talent, and it was a difficult year for the gym as well. So we chose to highlight that. And this time around, we have chosen to highlight one fighter in particular. We've had him on the channel multiple times in the past, a great guy. And I'm also going to give a bit of the credit in regards to us giving this person the award. I think that us choosing to award Justin Burlinson with the Outstanding Achievement Award is partly down to Cage Warriors, because and I think you guys as well, wasn't really aware of what Justin Burlinson has been dealing with in recent times. He did put an Instagram post up about it, I think like a year ago at this point, which I must have missed. And so I wasn't aware. I knew that he had been taking some time off and he had some injuries and things like that. But ahead of his recent comeback in Newcastle, Cage Warriors put up a post about how he had been battling testicular cancer and had come through some significant injuries before that, which had led to him taking a lot of time off as well. Comes back in Newcastle, gets the win in a great fight in traditional Justin Burlinson fashion. The guy is always in ridiculous fights. So to come through that period, get a great homecoming in Newcastle, and now, of course, in a few months, April 26th, he will be challenging James Sheehan for that welterweight title in Ireland. That is going to be, I mean, that's already one of my most anticipated Cage Warriors title fights that we'll probably see this year, let alone that is expected to happen in the coming months. That is going to be an absolutely incredible fight. But both for the comeback inside the cage and the adversity that he's faced outside of it as well. I think that Justin Burlinson is incredibly deserving of this award. I don't know if any of you guys want to say anything else on Justin Burlinson before we get out of here.
Just what a lad. What a lad. I mean, going through that is bad enough. And then never mind having to get yourself back in. I imagine it's horrifically taxing on your body when you're constantly in the gym training and keeping yourself in a certain sort of fitness and shape. And then he's come back to Cage Warriors after going through all of that and just shown up like he always does. Looked just as he always does, if not better. And like you say, Kel, now he's got the title shot against James Sheehan. That is going to be an absolute scrap. And yeah, I've said it 100 times this episode. I'm not going to say it for any episodes that we have in the future. Big up Justin Burlinson, man. What a year. I mean, it is a testament to like the mental fortitude of MMA fighters in it, like what they actually go through in their personal lives, and then what you see of them on the telly in the cage. Like it really puts it into perspective, like what they're actually putting the bodies through, I suppose, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that'll pretty much do it for our end of year awards. It's been fun as always putting these together and taxing as well. I'm still so frustrated about not giving a little bit of shine to our boy Lonnie Kavanagh. So I've mentioned him before we get out of here, because his knockout on the Contender Series was absolutely deserving of being in our knockout of the year list.
There's always
There's
one.
always one. Yeah,
And
there's always one.
And we really do scour through. And
It's
I
the
just don't know
Contender
how we
Series.
miss.
It got us last year as well.
Yeah,
The
with
Contender Series.
Oban, yeah, with Cake Burrito. Nah, honestly, Contender Series will not elude us next year. It best not. We'll blame Jake if it happens, but Jake.
Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate everyone for getting involved and voting, and excited to see what these categories end up looking like by the end of next year, where it will be very, very different indeed. All right. We will catch you guys later. Again, thank you for voting, thank you for participating, and see you soon.